Hola mi gente, me llamo es Rafael, o mi nombre es Rafael y yo soy o estoy es un estudiante de español. Yo practico español para 161 días. My name is Rafael. I don't know if I said any of that even remotely correct, but I'm a student of Spanish and I've been practicing Spanish for the last probably 3 or 4 months, but I have a 161-day streak on Duolingo right now, so I've been utilizing Duolingo and ChatGPT to learn Spanish, and I've tried to learn Spanish probably like 4 or 5 times in my life. Like, not always my choice. I went to high school, I was trying to learn Spanish, middle school, a little bit of college, and I wasn't really like trying to learn. I was like, oh, I'll just pick up some stuff and whatnot. That'll be a good thing to do. And now, age 30, I was like, you know what? I want to be a polyglot. I want to learn a lot of languages. I want to be by the time like 5 years comes by that I can understand at least 5 new languages. If I learn 1 new language a year, like I put in like 1 hour a day, daily commitment from January 1st till the end of the year to learn 1 language, like that's awesome. So this year is going to be primarily focused on Spanish. I feel like because I had already a background in Spanish, it should not take me a complete year. Should probably take me like 6 to 7 months of practicing like 1 to 2 hours a day. And then Portuguese is going to be the focus for next year. And then after that, I eventually want to learn Japanese, maybe like Chinese, Mandarin, and Cantonese, some Russian as well, and Italian, French. I want to learn like all the main popular languages because I've had a great experience recently. I was hanging out and me and this chick, we were going to the park, we were walking around, and there were some like Spanish people there, probably from like Guatemala or Ecuador, I forgot where exactly at. And the girl's like, oh, like I want to go like play soccer, and I'm like, oh, let's go ask. And then we were walking towards them, like, oh, do you want to play? And we're like, yeah. So we were playing soccer and we were having a good time. And then they thought I didn't know Spanish, but I knew a little bit of Spanish, like enough to like get around and like understand like what people were saying and whatnot. Some things I didn't know, and I was like, what did they just say? And then I would get that explained to me. But after the game was over, they invited us to go eat some food. They had steak, rice, beans, and all this amazing food. I was like, man, this is great. Like, I love this. I love you guys are so nice. I love the culture. And, normally if I see someone who like speaks Spanish, maybe like I've spoken to them in English in the past, my Spanish, I didn't feel confident with it, and they, it'd be normal, it'd be nice, but you speak Spanish, it's like they just open up. I'm like, wow, there's like a completely different person under this person's skin once you open up the language and whatnot. So I thought that was a really cool experience, and I was like, man, I want this experience to happen more. Like I said, I was initially learning Japanese, but not a lot of Japanese speakers live in New York, or at least like probably in the city. There's probably a ton, but where I live at, upstate New York, not a lot. So I was like, you know what, I want to be a polyglot. I want to learn a lot of languages. Spanish is probably the way to initially go, and here we are a few months later. I'm having the best time with it, utilizing ChatGPT and Duolingo. So how I'm using Duolingo to learn Spanish right now. So what I like about Duolingo is the consistency with it. Every day it sends you a notification if you have notifications on. You have your streak, you have your leagues, and they are honestly just games. But if you could really focus and concentrate on what it's teaching you, you could pick up on some stuff. Duolingo is awesome. I have the paid version, also paid version of both ChatGPT and Duolingo, and you basically have, if you have the unpaid version, which I've always paid for like in the last 2 or 3 years, I think it was $70 for the year. So you basically have all these lessons that you could basically get to like a fluency level of not every single language. I think Japanese would be quite difficult to become fluent on using Duolingo, but Spanish, I feel like because of my background already, I'm able to utilize that. Yeah, it kind of also gives you a chart of like your fluency. So on Duolingo, there's like, you can read, you can listen, you can speak. There's a Pro Max version I could get. I'm probably not going to get. You could do like video chats with like an AI bot. I already have Duolingo and I use it on my walks every day. So I was like, this is not really a necessary thing. So I usually skipped. I wish they gave me a longer free version. I didn't really utilize it when I had the chance. It could be really good and I could be just completely wrong. Like maybe you should get it. And I think they have a podcast as well, but I don't listen to it. I don't have that time. I don't have that luxury of listening to Spanish podcasts like that. I also want to listen to my normal health and education podcast. So I do about 30 minutes to an hour of Duolingo every single day. And what I like about it, it becomes very repetitive, and it's kind of annoying at first, but you realize like why it's good to be repetitive, because it's like, I don't know what the word escuchar means. So escuchar means to listen, and it gives you all the tenses. So they're in like English, it's like, all right, I'm going to go to the park. Oh, he's going to the park. And like there's two different versions of the word. I'm going to the park, or he's gone to the park, or whatever. That's two. One's past tense, one's like present tense, or an ongoing action. So in Spanish is like you have 6 versions of the word. So it's like soy, estoy, let's say escuchar. Yo escucho means I listen. Yo tú escuchas means you listen. To escuchar means he listens. Escuchamos means we listen. Escuchans means they listen. And then there's like another version of it, I forget. And then there's past tense and whatnot. It really ingrains what tense for you to use. And they have like practice sections, but I've already learned the grammar structure when I was in like high school, so it was easy for me to kind of pick that up. It's very, very repetitive, but you get to learn all the versions of the words and whatnot. And they always throw in some new words. Now, when they throw in a new word, you can either try to guess what that means by context, which is good because that means you're kind of using the other words around it to figure out what that word means. And if you're able to understand a bunch of other words, you can probably put that missing word into place. Like, let's say there was like 5 colors. It was like green, black, purple, brown. So verde, negro, marron. I forgot what the last one I said. And then let's say red was the one that was missing, and red is roja. Well, they have roja, they have gato, and they have perro. And you know what perro and gato means, so you're like, well, it probably isn't those two, so it must be roja. And then when you click roja, and then it means red, that's another way to learn the word. So they have some awesome lessons on there. So you would press a word. Sometimes you could press like a little square, and then it'd be something you listen to, and then you kind of fill in the blank. So it keeps it very fun, entertaining. And then there's the leaderboards as well. The leaderboards are my most fun. Right now, I should be in first place. I'm in the second highest league. And you'll go up against like people at all levels, but it's not like you're fighting against their level. You're just kind of fighting against who could do the most lessons. Right now, I am in first place. Mine's all the way on the top. And the guy who's in second place, ironically, his name is Santiago, and my last name is Santiago, so that's just super ironic. So if I lose to anybody, I'd rather lose to somebody with the same name as me, essentially. And I was talking to my friend, like I said, she's from Colombia, and she was telling me that Santiago is actually a first name in Colombia. And I'm like, that's ridiculous, because Santiago translates to St. James in English. And I am not calling anybody St. James, all right? So Santiago is the last name, Raphael, St. James the fourth, because I am the fourth, which is cool. Very, very Hispanic thing to do is to name your child after yourself. And if I ever have a son, Raphael Santiago the fifth. Now, how I use ChatGPT to learn Spanish, because that's been a huge help in my conversational skills. So I think one thing about like learning a language is like I can study Spanish 24/7, 7 days a week, and if I'm not practicing saying it out loud, when I try to say it out loud, I'm probably going to be nervous. I'm probably be afraid. If you're not doing something, you're not going to have the confidence to just do it one day randomly. Maybe like if it's something super closely related to your field, you might have confidence because you could feel like the confidence spills over. Like I speak English, but I study Spanish. I can read English words, but it doesn't necessarily mean I should speak Spanish right off the bat. I should be practicing it. I should be practicing it. You know what I'm saying? Like I shouldn't just one time to try to have a conversation with someone. I probably should be practicing, and having ChatGPT as an option is great. Let's see. I actually use ChatGPT on like how I do it. So basically, I talk to my ChatGPT and I'm like, hola, ¿cómo estás? Yo quiero hablando en español. I want to talk hablando con tu en español. I want to talk to you in Spanish. So then whenever it starts talking in Spanish, and then if the level's too difficult, I'm like, whoa, brother, I don't understand this level of Spanish. You got to make it much easier. And I also need you to fix any mistakes that I make in Spanish. But when you fix these mistakes, I need you to explain this mistake that I did in English, because it'll default to Spanish. So I have to explain to make the mistake, clear the mistake in English. Like, let's say, yo aprendes, I'm listening, yo aprendes a tú, like I'm listening to you. I actually said aprendes, which should be aprendo. So it'll be like, everything you said was pretty good, but instead of using aprendes, you should have used aprendo because you're talking about yourself. So it explains the mistake in English at the same time it gives you the correction in Spanish. Because if I have to explain to fix a mistake in Spanish all the time, I'm never going to get it. So I have to make it easy for me to understand, and this helps build confidence. Now, sometimes this is like, I don't think this is an issue, but I remember like I was asking it, I know how to say the word walk in Spanish is caminar. Like that's the non-conjugated version of the word. So yo camino a la cremería de mi calle todo día. So I walk to the creamery every day, and I asked it, like, how do I say hike? Hike in Spanish is also apparently caminar, but there's like another way to say it. So based on the culture of Spanish, so maybe it's like people from different countries would call hiking different things, or people from Spain would call hiking different things. So we have to keep that in mind, that you might have a conversation with someone in Spanish, they might use a different word for the same meaning. But that's why you always have to practice and like also speak with native speakers. It's great to use ChatGPT as a way to practice your speaking, but it's not perfect because they're not always going to be, I don't want to say correct, because it should be correct for the most part. Like it has made some mistakes in the past in English and Spanish, but I will take learning the mistake from ChatGPT because it's correct most of the time. And if you feel like maybe ChatGPT isn't giving you the right answer, like, hey, can you research this? Can you look this up? And then it will actually look up the answer instead. So that's always been good. So use it to practice. I speak in Spanish. I tell it to stay super, super easy, and like whatever level I'm talking to it in Spanish, kind of repeat it back. And if I don't understand a sentence and it said a lot of things, I'm like, hey, can you explain this in English? And if it's saying a lot of information, I'm like, hey, can you break this down in parts? And I might have this 30-minute conversation with ChatGPT, and I was just kind of going over like 5 sentences that we went over the entire time. And I feel like that's a good way to learn slow. To learn slow is good, because if I can learn that one thing perfectly and really like understand it the entire time, it's like now I can really, that's implemented in my brain. I can practice those sentences, and then eventually that's how I'm going to build on the language. So I say and if you want to really understand a language within to decent fluency within a year, like 1 hour practice a day, 30 minutes on the app, 30 minutes practicing, out loud using ChatGPT. I feel like that's the way to go, because my Spanish has improved tremendously, and I do have the opportunity to practice it all the time. Some other things too that's good is like you can watch the news, or you could listen to music. Now with the news and music, especially if you're brand new, it's probably not that great, honestly. Like I listen to the music because I've always enjoyed Spanish music. I've been around it, but I never really understood it. Now I'm understanding it, and maybe I'll go on YouTube, I'll type in English version of the song, not like singing English or rapping English, but putting it in English so that that I could I could listen to the Spanish version of the words, and then it'll just translate on the bottom in English. So it has both translations, and I can understand the songs more. And then if I read it, I understand the songs more. I listen to it in the future, and I'm like, oh, I know what he's actually saying. And because I'm learning Spanish slowly, I could, and probably like 2 months from now, if I listen to that same song, I'm probably gonna understand it much differently than I was before. The news, they speak too fast. Like especially in like any language, if I speak fast, like someone's not gonna understand you because they're not gonna be able to separate the words. It was one thing I was learning Japanese that because when I was learning Japanese, I was almost actually getting better at Spanish without practicing Spanish, because I was able to separate the words better. So when I was learning, I was like, oh, doko desu ka, whatever. Like doko, desu ka, they're 2 different words, 2 different meanings. But when I started listening to Spanish, I was able to separate the words a little better and whatnot. And that's, like try to engage with native speakers, listen to Spanish music, cultural understandings. But yeah, this is my experience so far with Duolingo and ChatGPT. I'll come back in a month from now, or like when I hit my 200-day streak, and be like, hey, this is where I'm at, and I'll practice a little bit of Spanish. Maybe I'll end this conversation like we're speaking a little Spanish to see where I'm at. So yo finite el video de YouTube ahora, y después ahora yo necesito hacer mi trabajar, y a las 4:30 yo voy a la gimnasio de jiu-jitsu, y I did teach is I want to say teach. I forgot to say teach. Yo hace un clase de jiu-jitsu para or por los niños. So otro trabajo también. Y yo hace un clase de jiu-jitsu por mí en la noche a las 6:30. Y después voy a mi casa a comer mucha comida por en jiu-jitsu hace mucho ejercicio, like usar mucho energía. Y en la mañana de viernes yo teach, I forgot to say teach, yo escucha un clase de jiu-jitsu en la mañana. So I have a good understanding of like a lot of Spanish, but it's like I really got to work on my conversational skills. But if you do it every day, you're going to keep getting better. And actually, I'll show you guys an example of me talking to ChatGPT in Spanish. Hola ChatGPT, yo hace un video de YouTube y yo quiero hablar con tú en español.
Hola, me parece genial que estés haciendo un vídeo para YouTube y que quieras practicar tu español conmigo. ¿De qué te gustaría hablar en español? Estoy aquí para ayudarte.
Yo quiero hablando a un topic de comida. En desayuno yo come farina con un café y un banana y electrolytes también yo bebo. Or like however you say past tense, I said I drink. Y yo tengo hambre. Yo quiero un protein shake. Y that's really it. So that's how I would speak to it in Spanish. So it's gonna respond now.
Lo estás haciendo muy bien. Entonces en el desayuno sueles comer avena con un café, una banana y también tomas electrolitos y ahora tienes hambre y te apetece un batido de proteínas. Todo suena delicioso y saludable.
How do I say, you can interrupt it too, which is great. How do I say to teach in Spanish? I don't think it's escuchar. I could be wrong though.
The verb to teach in Spanish is enseñar.
Enseñar. Yo enseño muchos niños de jiu-jitsu a las 4:30. Mi profesora de jiu-jitsu enseña también porque ella es más inteligente de jiu-jitsu y ella hace jiu-jitsu para 20 años y ella es un black belt.
Excelente. Suena genial que enseñes a los niños Jiu-Jitsu por la tarde y qué bueno que tu profesora también enseñe con toda esa experiencia y su cinturón negro es una gran inspiración.
So yeah, that's how I use ChatGPT to learn Spanish. And I think it's just great. Like, it's like, all right, like in the past, like people used to just like pay for tutors, which is great. You can still pay for tutors. I think that's super useful and whatnot. But I have to schedule this time at 4:00 to study with a tutor for 30 minutes when I could just practice whenever I want with ChatGPT. I think it's great. I think like we live in a different world now. Like I think that people haven't utilized AI or ChatGPT and stuff like that. And I think eventually everyone's just gonna realize like it's probably the best thing for learning. And I think that's gonna be a huge positive impact on the intelligence of society and whatnot. I'm making a video. And that's pretty much it, guys. That is my video of like how I'm learning Spanish, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.